Good afternoon, it's Tom Brown here for his final report from the Tromsø Olympiad 2014, round 11. Overall, been a fantastic Olympiad. We had some good games today. The ladies, unfortunately, went down to the English. Very tight match. Jane was playing Jovanka Huska as an IM on one, and she tried hard, but ultimately went down. And we drew on board 3 with Susie, and on board 4, Linda was doing quite well, but only managed to draw in the end when she had a bishop. It's quite a technical position with a bishop for a couple of pawns, I believe. And and Olivia went down as well on board 2. So 3-1 there to the English. The men's team, we were up against Ireland. It's a very tight match, and at one stage it was looking very promising. Fortunately, we did go down 3-1, but that's perhaps a rather 1.5, I should say, with David Sands holding on for a well-earned draw, and Tim ultimately went down in to Sam Collins and an exchange Rui. And Francis on board 4 was looking very good for the win, and probably had a 1 position at some stage, but didn't quite finish his opponent off. Anyway, the game I'm going to bring today is Richard's excellent win against Grandmaster Alex Baburin, Ireland's board 1. Richard's playing white, and he opens with his e4. Let me just flip the board, actually, so we got it the right way. So e4, and Baburin is known for his Alekhine defence, which is a new knight f6 move, and very provocative. So knight with the pawn, knight moves on. This is all very sort of standard stuff. d6, knight f3. There are other lines, but perhaps the most popular line. So pawn and c6 to add support to the centre. Very well trodden path here. Bishop e2, bishop f, and double t on this move 7 here with this very c4. There's no games in my database, but I think Richard has played it a couple of times, so this must have been a bit of a shock to Baburin. It looks quite a strange move, because the natural idea, you'd think as black, would be to play knight b4, with the idea of perhaps coming in to c2. However, this has been prepared by Richard, and say after knight b4, his plan was to castle, and if knight c2, to play bishop g4, where bishop g4, and there's 2 lines here. Knight takes rook looks a bit dubious after, say, something like bishop takes f5, bishop takes bishop, and then just a bishop back, and this knight on a1 is just out of the game. So there should be plenty of compensation for the opportunity of winning this piece. So instead, perhaps so bishop g4, bishop takes g4 is more common. Queen takes c2, queen d4, winning the pawn. So this rook perhaps go to winner on e6, and Richard spent a lot of time analysing this position with the help of the computer, and was pretty confident that it was good for white. However, going back to c4, Baburin reacted with a perhaps more passive move, perhaps smelling a rat there, and just played knight f6. So some more development occurs now, and Richard seizes some space on the line with g4 attacking the bishop, leading to this sort of 4 sequence. Knight takes knight, pawn takes, knight ed7. So Richard again I'm pretty sure he'd seen these kind of ideas prior, so he'd already prepped this, so some good prosecute this position. So bishop comes out, queen comes out, queen c2. It's difficult for black to develop, so he's using g6 to try and get his bishop out, so developing. Bishop g7, both sides will queenside castle. Knight attacks the bishop, bishop drops back, queenside castle, bishop e2 attacking the knight, knight defends the knight, rook comes to the open file, both the kings move to a safer square, rook d7 to double up rooks, and now Richard starts to move his pieces towards the queenside, towards the castle king. So knight a4, b6, necessary to stop the knight coming to c5 in some variations. If black chose to be greedy and grabbed a pawn with queen f5, and this following forced line, queen takes queen, bishop takes, knight takes, and rook g5, forking the knight and bishop, best black can do is play something like f4, attacking the bishop, and just simply knight c5, rook moves, and then the bishop just drops back, and the best black really has is to just to take the pawn. So this looks pretty clearly winning. Notice the knight is still protecting the knight on c5 there. Okay, so going back to b6, we get bishop f3, attacking the pawn, rook c8 to defend the pawn. Richard releases the tension in the king, begins to move his rook towards the queen side by rook g5. Notice how the queen is getting pushed to a bad square, then the other rook joins in. Rook comes to defend and lost a second, and Richard is harmoniously drawing his pieces towards the black king. So the king could run through it, and after rook a3, b7, knight c3, and now queen b8. I mean, look at the horrible position of the queen. This is looking rather desperate for black here. So queen comes towards the intense pressure, blunders by playing bishop h6, missing this nice little shot. Rook takes h5, because if bishop takes e3, there's this intermezzo in between move, rook h8, forcing rook d8, and rook takes rook, and then we can just take and material up here. So reverting back to after, okay, best for black men after rook takes h5 is knight takes h5, but this leads to a significant win in material, and from here is pretty straightforward. So wins the pawn, makes a run for it, and after knight d5, rook c8, bishop f8, black throws in the towel. Fantastic win for Richard there, showing exemplary skill to beat his grandmaster opponent. Okay, overall Wales finished 105th with our ranking of 96, but if we were to have won the last match, we would have come into the 80th. So I think overall both teams can be very satisfied. And on a final note, I'd just like to let everybody know that Jane Richmond actually achieved the WIM norm in this Olympiad. Apologies for this, as a truck driving past, so we'll just let this go. So yeah, so it'll be a fantastic tournament. I'd just like to thank all the organisers, and it's been a pleasure doing Game of the Day series, so thank you and goodbye.